The three of them met up to work part-time on a small island, unaware that the moment they landed, it was destined to be a one-way trip. Late at night, the sleeping Ingzi was startled awake by a strange noise, and it seemed that someone was pacing back and forth outside the corridor. Ingzi was puzzled. It was already 3 a.m., so Lu was still wandering around in the corridor. The next day, he learned from Taijun that there was a room in the store, and the boss lady never let anyone in. One day, Taijun was woken up by the boss lady and asked to move the fuel from the warehouse to the kitchen. That night, he saw the boss lady entering that room with her meal. The room kept making strange noises, and in less than 5 minutes, the boss lady came out, leaving her hands empty when she came out. There's a problem. How could a normal person eat so quickly? Moreover, there was obviously no one in the room. How could the food that was just brought in disappear out of thin air? The boss's bizarre actions puzzled everyone. That night, Ingzi heard the familiar sound again and a figure kept wandering back and forth down the hallway. Ingzi mustered up her courage to go outside and investigate, but when she got outside, nothing was there. Chewing something non-stop. She was so scared by the scene that she didn't know what to do. But soon after, Xiao Shuai seemed perfectly fine again. As they descended the stairs, he asked Ingzi why she was upset and said he hadn't found anything in the room. Ingzi looked bewildered and repeatedly emphasized that Xiao Shuai never entered the room. Instead, he was chewing something at the door. Initially, Xiao Shuai didn't believe it until he felt the residue on his mouth. Before they could figure out what was going on, the boss's wife suddenly appeared behind them, and she instructed both of them to go back quickly, promising that if they kept it a secret, nothing would happen tonight.
Ever since then, Xiao
Shuai has become increasingly bizarre. Once when a guest checked in, there were clearly only 2 people, but he said there were 3. Xiaomei noticed something was off and asked Xiao Shuai if he was sick the next day, but he denied it. His eyes were still staring forward, saying there was a little girl watching them all the time. Ingzi couldn't help but notice. Indeed, there was a child, but it was a boy, and the boy wasn't watching them at all. Xiao Shuai repeatedly emphasized that there was another girl by the boy, but Ingzi didn't believe him because in his eyes, besides the boy, there was no one else. Suddenly, Xiao Shuai couldn't control himself and rushed out. After running a few steps, he stopped again as if chasing something. Ingzi worried that if Xiao Shuai kept this up, something bad would happen, so she asked her best friend to stay with her while she went to ask the boss for some time off. However, after her best friend left, the boss suddenly looked at her husband on one side and smiled in a creepy way. At the same time, Xiao Shuai's condition became increasingly severe. He kept saying there was someone outside, but when looking around carefully, nothing could be seen. Before Xiao Shuai recovered from his shock, a figure appeared behind him, making him jump in fear. The person who came was none other than his best friend. But when Xiao Shuai saw his best friend, he kept saying there was someone behind him. Xiao Shuai was so scared that he broke through the window to escape. When Ingzi found him, he had already curled up on the boat. To prove his words were true, Xiao Shuai immediately rolled up his sleeves, and a red palm was clearly visible. This sight shocked Ingzi so much that he finally believed what Xiao Shuai said. In the middle of the night, Ingzi went to the room where everything happened and decided to uncover all the sources of evil. As the door opened, a putrid smell filled the air, and the room was filled with sacrifices. He then went to another dark room, which was arranged like an altar. In the center of the altar was a bizarre doll, and next to it was a drawer full of fingernails and human teeth. However, just as Ingzi, with an uneasy heart, was about to open the last layer, Ingzi was scared out of his wits by the scene and tried frantically to leave this place of ghosts. But when he ran to the stairs, he realized there were many food residues around his mouth. Ingzi told her best friend about the incident, but she thought they were making things up. Until 5 students walked towards them, but her best friend only saw 4. Then, one girl suddenly walked towards them. Her eyes instantly turned black, extremely creepy, causing both of them to run away in fear, leaving their dumbfounded best friend behind. They thought running to a crowded place would be safe, but little did they know. When the passing by people saw this scene, they thought Xiao Shuai was bullying Ingzi and immediately stepped in to stop him. In their eyes, there was no so-called third party at all. This gave the ghost a chance to catch its breath. Ingzi couldn't explain herself and grabbed a nearby stick to knock up the passerby before escaping. But running like this wouldn't solve anything. It would be caught sooner or later. So Xiao Shuai suggested splitting up, with him attracting the ghost to buy time for Ingzi to escape. However, he didn't expect that this suited the ghost's plans perfectly. The target had always been only Xiao Shuai. Soon, Xiao Shuai was cornered, but the ghost wasn't in a hurry to act. It seemed to be waiting for an opportunity. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared behind them. When Yingzi found Xiao Shuai again, he was already lying on the ground. His eyes were empty and lifeless, as if his soul had been taken away. At that moment, a close friend of hers came along with her part-time boss. She said that only a high monk could save Xiao Shuai. On the way, the boss explained everything to everyone. There was a legend on the island that if a child unfortunately went missing at sea, the family would set up an altar. Every day, they provided delicious food and drink to honor the sea god. They believed that one day the missing child might return. The boss's son was such a case. Since his son went missing, the boss's wife offered rape every night. She hoped this would bring her son back, but before her son returned, she became neurotic, as if something had possession of her. After listening to the boss's description, a few people finally understood why the boss lady wouldn't let idle people enter that room. Soon after, everyone found the monk, who immediately identified Xiao Shuai as an empty shell and even asked Yingzi if he had also entered that room. If he enters, his fate will be like that of a handsome guy, but there are also solutions to this matter. Just spend the night in front of the temple, and make no sound until dawn when the spirit removal ceremony ends, including opening the door, eating, and sleeping, and everything will be solved smoothly. Time will soon reach midnight, and strange noises will keep appearing. Yingzi was trembling with fear, so he quickly covered his ears and forced himself to remain calm. In no time, the terrifying sounds gradually disappeared, and as I let out a sigh of relief, danger followed. Hearing the voice of a best friend, Yingzi's hanging heart must be put aside. And at this moment, he had already forgotten what the monk had said. After the door opened, a tall figure came into view, and Yingzi instantly realized something. When everyone arrived, it was still successful for the 8-foot man. It is said that he has a special ability to change any sound as he pleases. This is why he always manages to succeed. There is a tradition on the island that by sacrificing to the sea god, you can bring back children who have perished at sea. There's about an 80% chance that it's all thanks to the 8-foot man. He might be in the room where the boss lady stays now. If we can retrieve his soul before dawn, we can save Yingzi and Xiao Shuai. But taking back his soul won't be easy either. Song took out his daughter's photo and claimed that he had made the same mistake before, if he could have made a decision at that time. Perhaps nothing will happen later. To make up for this mistake, the high monk decided to enter the body of the young handsome man, while his best friend entered the body of the young man. The two of them joined forces powerfully. We can definitely rescue them. The soul-swapping ritual will begin soon, but unexpectedly, something unexpected happened halfway through. The prince who shouldn't have been involved accidentally stumbled into Little Handsome's body. The best friend who was supposed to enter Yingzi's body ended up with Taijun, while the high monk ended up with Yingzi. Rumor has it that if she were to make eye contact with Lord Bachu, the soul will be drawn away by him, so going out can only be led by the best friend attached to Taijun. Because Lord Bachi is only interested in children under the age of 18, but also in middle-aged men. He had no interest at all. However, on the way a few people were driving, Master Bachi suddenly caught up. Best friend originally wanted to get rid of her, but alas, her driving skills were too poor, and the monk had no choice but to engage in close combat with Lord Bachi. Although the monk's move was indeed powerful, it nearly tickled Lord Bachi soon after. He made a comeback, and the two realized they were no match for him. They quickly ran into the prearranged formation and watched as Lord Bachi fell into his trap. The high monk immediately transforms into a righteous master. As the flames dissipated, the 8-foot master was completely wiped out, and Yingzi and Xiao Shuai were also rescued. However, it seems that the matter is not over. One day, my best friend unexpectedly found out that the handsome guy who never liked sashimi has now started eating one by one. This made him very puzzled. It turns out that all of this was a conspiracy by the boss lady, the couple, and the monk. Their purpose was to use the bodies of Xiao Shuai and Yingzi to accommodate their own children who have already perished. The real Xiao Shuai and Yingzi are still trapped in that house at this moment,